In the darkest nights, we find our light. Battered souls, but we won't lose sight. Surviving together, never alone. Through every trial, we carry on. Surviving together, never alone. Through every trial, we carry on. Surviving together, we stand tall. United forever. Strength and courage will overcome. Oh, surviving together, victorious, and never alone. Hand in hand, we'll face the unknown.
We see you, we hear you, and we believe you. Hey everyone, how you doing tonight? It is Wednesday. It is quite rainy here, and I'm having just a little bit of technical difficulties with my camera today, so that's why you have a different screen. The backdrop's kind of a little different. My camera is not syncing with StreamYard. I'm not sure why. I think it might be my new computer. I might have to download a different version because of the Windows 11. The old one was working with Windows 10, so I don't know. We'll have to see. So that's why you've got this, and I don't have the big light on because otherwise it's just, the light's just too much. So that's where we are. So welcome to Surviving Together, a safe space for trauma survivors to connect and build community on their healing journeys, as well as providing trauma-related education for all. Seems like it might be a little quiet night tonight, and that's all right. I decided that I wanted to talk about our healing journeys tonight. I know a lot of people in our community have been going through a rough patch these past few weeks or even these past couple months, and I know that I'm no exception. And I'm getting down to the wire with my book chapter being due on Friday. And I was a little stuck at the part of my chapter where I was discussing like the meat of my healing journey. And I thought, we say it often, healing is not linear, and it's so true. And it definitely smacked me in the face when I was, looking at the healing journey that I've done up until now. Healing Through Song, hello, how are you doing? Yeah, we just had some storms roll through. We seem to be okay now, so yeah, it's probably hitting you soon. And I'm not sure if we still have more to come or if what we just got was what was coming across the lake. Because I saw some stuff earlier that was kind of hitting Milwaukee, and I know was going to come across Lake Michigan for us. So wasn't too bad. I think if you're farther south, Michigan, Indiana border, that's like, it seems to be where the worst of it was. So hopefully you will do well over there. Cross my fingers for you. I know I've got a little bit of a headache if I keep squinting a little bit. It's the light is a little bright for me, but otherwise you guys are not going to be able to see me at all being on here. So the storms generally monkey with my head, and that's kind of what it's doing here tonight. So, but welcome. I hope you're doing well tonight. So, what I was thinking about when I was looking at my healing journey is how often, at least in my early years, because my healing journey really started kind of when I finally went to a counselor in college who pretty much gave me permission to call myself a victim. And by that, I mean she recognized what I had been through was actually abuse. Because I had so many questions swirling around this concept of, am I a victim? Am I not a victim? Was I abused? Was I not abused? Was it a big deal? Maybe it was inappropriate, but it wasn't really abuse. And it really it messed with my mind. And I didn't know where to place it. And I couldn't even begin to deal with my trauma when I couldn't even quantify it in the first place. And so just giving myself, just being given space and someone holding that for me and saying, yeah, this is what happened to you. You were abused. That was really the first part along my healing journey. No worries, Crystal. How are you doing tonight? I hope you're doing well. And it really didn't, my healing per se, I don't think happened probably for another 10 or 15 years after that. In earnest. Being able to understand that I was abused was helpful. And it allowed me to work through the feelings in regards to having childhood sexual trauma. And during that, like, say, next 10-year period or so, I worked a lot with different types of trauma survivors. And while I felt an affinity for all of them, my story would still always go back to my childhood sexual trauma, because that was the only abuse that I felt I knew. I hadn't recognized any of the kind of little t trauma that I suffered growing up with the dysfunction in my family and with subsequent bullying. I didn't know about any of that. And so it didn't enter my equation at all. But in terms of working with other trauma survivors of different types, I would share my story. And there's great power in being able to share your story and own it and be able to then subsequently work through any of the feelings that come up because of that. And I subsequently, in my 20s, was in and out of therapy with a wonderful person. And I don't know if she was a trauma-informed therapist, to be honest with you. I'm not sure that was even really a thing back then, that they called them that. But she had worked with a lot of survivors. And so we did speak about my abuse, but we didn't really delve into the psychology behind trauma and its effects and how things affect your brain. And part of it is honestly because of all that I've learned now, I'm not even sure at the time that a lot of that was well known. I think some of the more top tier specialists who are working with trauma people and trauma centers, that they were more aware of it, but your average therapist who was, a family counselor, um, they might have experience working with survivors, but to know really all the ins and outs of the reasons why and the psychology and the brain chemistry and all of that behind it, I don't think was really too much of a thing. And so it wasn't until I got into later on in life and really started delving into the trauma aspect and that I could see then the little t trauma. I could see how that affected my development, um, the interplay between that and the childhood sexual trauma. And so there was definite stops and starts along the way in terms of my healing journey. And it wasn't because I didn't want to heal anymore. It's just that I didn't know anymore and I didn't have somebody who was guiding me, further along that path in terms of speaking more in terms of generalized trauma. And I don't know if this is anything that you guys have experienced, particularly any of you who are older, if you were in therapy, earlier on in your life versus therapy that you went to, more recently, or just things that you've learned about trauma more recently. And I can honestly say that when I discovered, and this is probably within the last 5 years or so, probably not even that long, when I discovered CPTSD, I had never had anybody talk to me about that. I mean, I was in my 30s and I got re-diagnosed with depression. Had already been on antidepressants for, 5, 10 years at that point. Got re-diagnosed with major depressive disorder. No one ever, I would bring up my childhood abuse because I knew that it was something significant. I had felt that I had worked through my issues with it in terms of understanding its place, but it was only on a limited scale. And I can definitely say that those later therapists more than likely were not trauma informed, just based on where their focus was in terms of the types of questions that they asked, in terms of what they delved into. So that was the CPTSD realization for me, just kind of put all of those pieces together. The emotional neglect, growing up in an environment where there was constant yelling, constant fighting, constant acrimony in the house between the parental figures and myself and them as well, because I was not a quiet child when it came to my opinions. And then combine that with the abuse, the combine it with the sexual abuse, and it it put so many different pieces together for me that it allowed me to see my life in this big picture. And I remember the more I learned about it, the more it was those aha moments that I would have, just going, so that's why I did that. So that's why I reacted that way. And that's probably one of the pivotal moments for me that really accelerated my healing through trauma. Hey, Co-Train, how you doing? Hope you're doing well tonight. You guys are probably going to get some rain here in the next day or so. It's not to say that we can't heal outside of an official diagnosis. It's not to say that we can't heal without professional help. But I think having someone, whether it is a trauma-informed therapist, or now that we have the internet and we have, YouTube and tons of videos, you can watch therapists on here. So even if you're not in a one-on-one session, you can learn about the subject, which, historically wasn't something that I had access to. It's really important to understand trauma on a base level and understand that it does live inside us, to understand how it does affect us. Because I think without that baseline, at least it was for me, I was wandering through my healing journey and I was repairing certain pieces of myself. There were always still broken parts, and I could never figure out why they still felt broken. And I don't use that word lightly. For me at the time, it felt broken because I had no answers. I had no idea why I was like I was. Hey, Jodella, how are you doing? You still in Italy, or are you back in the UK? I hope you had a wonderful trip. And so I think that, knowledge is power. And I encourage anyone going through their healing journeys to arm yourself with as much information as you possibly can about trauma in general, about what it does to our bodies, what it does to our brains, what it does to our emotions, the different types of therapies that we can employ. Because it's really difficult to navigate through a healing journey effectively without all that information. It's like going through with a flashlight versus having all the lights on. And so as I was writing this section of my book, a chapter, it really clarified for me why I still felt like I had all these pieces that needed to be dealt with. Even though I was like okay, my trauma is my childhood sexual abuse. I've dealt with that. I understand it. I understand how it affected me. I can talk about it. I can connect with other survivors about it. Why do I still feel off? And it was because there were effects that I didn't know about. The interplay between that abuse and the other little T trauma that I had suffered. So we talk about healing's not linear, that you can take a step forward and you can take a step back. But even if you feel like you're moving forward in your trauma, and especially if you feel stuck at some point in your process, I really want to encourage all of you to just find out as much as you possibly can about the subject matter in general. And the other piece of that then is finding out as much as you can about yourself. The process of doing this book chapter and taking myself through my childhood trauma and then through my healing process, I really had to reanalyze a lot of what went on in my childhood. And having this bigger knowledge now, I looked at so many different pieces of my childhood other than just the sexual abuse and saw the interplay between all of them and understood why I only got so far at X point in my life. And how for a 10-year period of time I was in and out of therapy, on depression meds, increasing dosages of depression meds, getting re-diagnosed, with depression, and then later, mild anxiety. And yet nothing was getting better. So really, I don't know what else I want to say on this topic. That was really, what was on my mind tonight is how much I think sometimes we do a disservice to ourselves by relying on others to fix us. And I say that because of the era that I came from, right? I grew up in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and that's when pharma for mental illnesses, exploded. And it was fix it with a pill, or it was go to a therapist and get fixed. And there's going through this process of really picking apart my life and having to look at everything, how it interplayed, how it affected me later on. I realized how little I was really encouraged to sit with myself and sit with my thoughts and really analyzing my childhood and where I came from. So much of it was based on, well, what are you feeling today? Dealing with the current problem. And that's part of the benefit of having somebody who's a trauma informed therapist, that they understand that trauma, particularly childhood trauma, can affect you so dramatically for the rest of your life. And that ignoring it, trying to forget about it, compartmentalizing it, it doesn't work. It doesn't allow us to heal. The effects are still going to be there. So even if you think you've dealt with the trauma, you really haven't. Hey Rick, how you doing? You've put it in a box and you've brushed it aside, but how the trauma affected you, it's still affecting you in those same ways. You just may not think of it that way. And it's still living inside you if you haven't released it. And I'm not going to say that this is an absolute for everybody. There are some people who are able to deal with their feelings and emotions and their trauma, at least on a certain level, and live pretty full lives. We're all different. And of course, it's going to depend on the type of trauma you suffered, how long you suffered it, when you suffered it. When it was in your life, and how much did you deal with it, and how much did you try and just stow away. What kind of support system did you have throughout your life? Especially in your later years, if you're dealing with childhood trauma. So if you're feeling stuck at all in your healing process, in addition to learning everything you can about trauma and your specific type of trauma, I really want to encourage you to utilize those tools that help you sit with yourself, whether it is doing inner child work, whether it is doing meditation, whether it's journaling, whether that's written or an audio form of journaling. Being able to really dissect where you've been, look at your trauma in context, and then look at your journey up into where you are now. If there's phases where you've taken a step back, but then yet you've been able to move forward, what was the impetus for that? Is there something that got you going again? How long's your stuck feeling been going on in terms of your healing journey? And definitely reach out and connect with others who have been there, who are on healing journeys, because we get it, right? And we may be able to see something or say something that clicks with you and gives you that spark to be able to move forward, or that thought, a notion that you hadn't really ruminated upon very much. And it's one of the reasons I feel so strongly about this community, and why I wanted to write about my trauma and my healing journey for this chapter, in terms of being able to share with the greater, with a greater population. The theme of our book is begin it now. And, where I end with things is, it is absolutely never too late to begin it now. Begin your healing journey, or pick it back up again. Because as you'll be able to see from my experience, I healed, but then I stopped. I stagnated because I didn't realize I had more to heal from. And then as my knowledge grew and I understood more, I was able to pick that healing journey back up again and begin it again. And so even if you think that you're on your healing journey, or if you feel like you've just given up because you've been stuck for so long, you can always start. Absolutely, Rick. So I'm using my trackpad here. Rick says healing can start at any time. Just got to accept it or work at it. 100%. And that can be really difficult for some of us. Sorry. As I said, I got the equipment set up a little differently, so I'm don't know quite where to look, because I've got my other screen up too, and I want to look up there, which is just going to throw everything off. But it didn't work to have my computer on a higher level. So I hope that this discussion resonates with you if you are uncertain about your healing journey, if you're uncertain about even starting it, or if you feel that you're plateaued and you need to continue and you want to move forward, that maybe this will give you a few ideas on how to be able to do that, or where you need to go from here. Thanks, Joe. This is Mac. Never give up, however difficult it may be. 100%. We are stronger than we know. I will say it again. Trauma survivors are some of the strongest people that I know. And if you don't feel that way, all you have to do is look at yourself and look at the fact that you're still on this earth, and you're still breathing, and you're still going through your day, and that you made it through everything that life has thrown at you up until today. You have survived all of that. Because not everybody does. Trauma breaks a lot of people. And I'm so proud of each and every one of you who show up here and give support to others, whether you're a trauma survivor yourself, or whether you're just here to support other trauma survivors. it means a ton, because I really believe it is near to impossible to heal to the fullest without connection. Social support is so critical for us, especially those of us who have been through certain types of trauma. Isolation, it just makes us more vulnerable to re-victimization. And that's certainly something that came up for me as I was looking at my childhood and looking at how I was victimized again and again and again by different people at different points in my life. And realizing what made me such an appealing target. Not that I intended to be, right? Not that I ever wanted to be. But predators are really, really good at picking up on these things and being able to pick us apart and find out things. I feel for a lot of trauma victims, you fall into like two categories once you've been through trauma once or twice. You're either kind of, and I'm talking about childhood trauma, you either withdraw and you're very closed off and you're not very forthcoming with information, or we're the opposite. We trust too easy, we talk too much, and that's definitely comes out of this need for connection, because often we are so isolated, we don't have a safe space. So if we feel even just a little glimmer of someone who's being nice to us or who feels like they might be an okay person, we just like glomp onto that. And that's one thing that struck me today, is how easy it would have been for people to get information out of me, to discover exactly where I was in life. Did I have friends? What was going on at home? What did I think? How did I feel? A handful of questions, and they would have had all the information that they needed to be able to go, yeah, easy pickings. Because that's how I dealt with it. I was desperate for connection because I didn't have I didn't have that. You know, I had a poor relationship with my father growing up. My brother and I did not have a sibling relationship at all, so there was no connection there. I had a very difficult time making friends, moving so often, highly intelligent, so other kids didn't know how to deal with it, and it came across from me very poorly because I didn't have the socialization skills. So I was desperate to reach, to grab on to anybody who offered me that connection. And I think that's what, a lot of trauma survivors can become codependent, because we think we're making people happy. We have somebody there in our life. We've got somebody there who needs us, and being able to do something for that person, makes us feel good. It's just that we can lose ourselves in that when you become so dependent, so codependent, that you're not taking care of your own needs, and you're giving up all of yourself. Because a lot of us don't even have a good sense of self. That's one of the things that significant trauma does to us, especially childhood trauma, any of the chronic trauma. we lose our sense of self. And without that, it is hard to set boundaries. It's hard to know when people are taking advantage of us because we don't have an internal barometer to say, well, this is me and I don't like that. Yeah, Crystal, and I know this is something that sorry guys, something we've spoken about before. Crystal says, I keep getting hurt time and again because of being an oversharer. It is something that I have struggled with, and particularly when I started dating again, because it's just something that feels almost innate in my personality at this point. And so I really had to so consciously take a step back and take my cues from the other people who I was communicating with and see, how much are you giving me? And my best barometer for that was, what kinds of questions are you asking me? How often are you asking me questions? And showing an interest in my life versus me just telling you everything that's going on. Mm-hmm. So I think I've gotten better at it. I mean, I have this outlet, so, I don't, at least in normal social contexts of making friends and, dating, I think I've gotten better at it. Here I can share as much as I want and I can overshare, and, you guys are kind of at my mercy. So I don't know, maybe I've just pivoted and I've just found another outlet for my sharing. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I certainly have been in that situation, Crystal, and yeah, I still wonder if I'm in that situation. I hear some creators, you're kind of in two camps. You've got the people who watch because they want to know everything about your life, and then you've got the other people who are like, you're here for X reason, you don't need to know everything that's going on in my life. So, but that's what this channel is. And I feel I'm not here as a therapist. I'm here as another peer. I'm here as another survivor who's flawed, who's still healing, who's walking this journey, walking this path with you. We're hand in hand on our journeys. And I figured that if at any point you guys are like, time out, Mac, you just you need to dial it back a little bit with the personal stories, somebody's going to tell me. And I hope you would. I hope you would drop a comment and let me know. We really didn't need to know that aspect of your life. So you guys, you tell me. I definitely rely on you for that. Hey, DeAudrey, no worries. Glad you're here, but though glad you made it. Been thinking about you. I was hoping you'd stop by tonight. I wanted to know how you were. I was thinking about you when I made this topic. Just how healing's not linear, and we all have our good times and bad times. And sometimes those times that we feel we're not moving forward in our healing last a little longer than we would like, but moving forward is possible. Thanks, Crystal. I appreciate it. You're having a good day. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome, Deaudrey. I'm so happy for you. And hopefully a good week. Well, I'm definitely crossing my fingers for you for the remainder of the week. And I'm just sending you good thoughts and good vibes across the pond, and keep me posted. I'm wishing the best for you. Hey, Misha, how are you doing? Welcome. I hope you're having a good day. Night, Joe. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. I'm glad you made it back from your vacation safe. I'm glad you had a great trip. So sleep well. Sleep well. That's about all that I have for today. Wish me luck. I now have 2 days left to finish my chapter. I was able to get some writing done today, but I've really found for me that when I'm writing, especially when I'm stuck, it really helps to take pen to paper. For some reason, there's just something about just doing that written word that gives my thoughts time to get into order and think so much more than if I'm trying to type a sentence. Particularly if my thoughts are disjointed, because I can draw arrows and I can add something in over here, and just works for my brain. So it was satisfying to know, satisfying is the wrong word, comforting to know that while this is our final draft, we are going to get it back with our first round of edits, which is going to be looking mainly at sentence structure, word choice, things of that nature. I'm sure if we have some paragraphs that are disjointed, they might make some suggestions. If they absolutely think it's horrid, they'll let you know, right? I mean, because they want to put a good product out. It's not something that they think that they've ever really had to do, send it back and go, no, you really need to try again. But there is a little bit of time after that. So if I do decide that I really hate the way something went, or I don't like some sentences and I want to redo some things, that there's still time after this draft is done before we get to final edits, which is going to be grammar, spelling, punctuation, that kind of thing. That took a little bit of a load off for me, that I do get another bite at this. I just can't, wholesale, change it, right? So I think that'll be okay. Misha says, writing for others is difficult, but if you have someone who's professional, knows what they're doing, and care about the results, it can be a good experience. Yeah, they did have ghostwriters available if we wanted to take advantage of that. I really wanted to try and get this out in my own words. I think that doing this first round of editing is probably one of the most difficult proofreading jobs, because you don't want to change the voice of the writer. You just want to try to improve it. that would be hard for me because I'm not sure that I don't know. I mean, I don't know if my suggestions would be sounding like I'm inserting my voice into it. So that would be, I think that would be a difficult thing to do. A couple of notes on some upcoming things. Saturday is going to be our next live, Saturday at 3 p.m. It's going to be August 2nd. It's going to be the first Saturday of the month, which means it's Laugh Saturday. If you have any ideas about what you want to see or don't want to see on Laugh Saturday, please let me know. We've done a variety of things over the time that we've been doing this since, I think last October was our first one, October 2024 or September, sometime in there. So, wow, 9 months already. We've done signs, we've done product liability labels, I've read stories, funny advertisements, we stupid criminals. We've done a lot of different things. So if there's any type of subject you'd like to hear about again, or want me to look into some things on, let me know. Again, if there's stuff that just absolutely fell flat and you're like, yeah, you might want to reconsider revisiting that type of topic again, let me know that. All right. So definitely shoot me an email or drop something in the comment section about Laugh Saturday if there's anything that you do or don't want to hear for that. We are just about 2 weeks away now from doing the GoFundMe fundraiser, and I will have a definitive time for you, hopefully coming up here soon. I believe it's going to be about 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and we'll be doing it for at least a couple hours. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be different creators are going to be coming on, offering up different services for donations, but just, I think we might do some trivia as well. So whether you can donate or not, please stop by for that. August 15th, it's a Friday, and I'd love to have all of you there. And as I have said before, even if you can't donate, you've already donated, sharing out the link, even if you shared it out before, if you can share it out again, that is one of the best things that you can do for me, and just kind of expanding the reach of potential donors out there. So as soon as I get that 7 o'clock time slot nailed down, I will have a thumbnail up and I will do a community post. So any of you guys who are on YouTube can just copy the community post and just repost that out. And, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you guys are at, if you can share it out on that, so much appreciated. Let's see. Amisha says, I should be releasing a parody tomorrow. Hopefully that'll make everybody laugh and forget about the yucks. Awesome. We will definitely be looking forward to that. Sounds awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the fundraiser just because I think it's going to be a great time, and so many different content creators coming together and, talk. And I'm just really excited about that. So I did get confirmation that my award for the Women Changing the World Global Awards is actually finally getting mailed. So at some point here, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, maybe by the fundraiser, I will actually be able to show you my little statue that I won. So I'm so excited to get it. I'm so excited to show it to you. I know you'll share out. Thank you, Misha. I appreciate it. And like I said, as soon as I get that locked in, I will let you know. I will work with Crystal Phoenix because she's been organizing a lot of these things. Crystal says another idea for Laugh Saturday would be strange things people go to the doc or ER for. Oh, ER stories. That might be funny. Just have to make sure that like it's not, find some that aren't too gory. But some of them might not be laughs, but they're just like, holy hell, how did they survive that? Oh, this is going to drive me nuts. I got to put that back a little bit. ER stories. Okay. I gotta find my pencil real quick. All right, Crystal, I've got ER stories written down, and I might have to cut that reach over out because nobody really wants to see any of that. Oh, really? Is that tonight? So just like in just a couple minutes, Misha? So Body Illusion is doing something at 6 p.m. So if you want to raid, here's the link. Well, guys, it is just a few minutes to. Stephen Ho is funny. He is a funny comedian. I do very much enjoy him as well. I remember the first time I saw him, and I think he was talking about his parents and his upbringing. Very funny. Misha says, yep. So in just a few minutes, Body Illusion will be on, which is great because I don't think she's been on live lately. I've seen some shorts and things and some videos that she's put up, but I don't think she's been on live. So I need to take care of dinner, which I have not made all week. And my son, I'm sure, has been mourning his less than stellar lunches that he's had to take. And I was so excited that I, got some writing done, even if it wasn't as much as I wanted to, but I got some ideas out and some, thought lines, and said, okay, tonight I'm making dinner. And so I made a pork roast and fresh green beans, and he came home with pizza that he already ate. I thought I'd surprise him by him opening the door and having the house smell all wonderful and everything. And he came in and he's just like, so I need to go put away all the food. Hopefully the cats haven't gotten at that pork roast at all. I think I've covered it up enough while I was on this live. So I'll take care of all of that. And then I will be at least dropping by to say hi to Body Illusion. I encourage you guys all to do so as well if you are still awake and out there. So with that, I think we'll end for today. I look forward to seeing you guys for Laugh Saturday. I think I am going to run with Crystal's ER suggestion. And I don't know how many funny things I'll be able to find, but I'm sure I can at least find some amazing stories and some, oh my gosh, how did he survive that stories? And probably a few, you're an idiot. What made you even think that doing X was a good idea? Not realizing that Y would result from that, right? So I want all of you to know that you are worthy, you are valuable, and you are loved just the way you are for who you are. So giant hugs and love from me to everybody out there and anybody who needs it, sending it across the distance. Surviving together, never alone. Enjoy the outro, guys.
fire through the rain. We have walked through endless pain, but we stand, we rise again. Stronger now, we break the chains. Surviving together, hearts open wide, lifting each other through every tide. The past may have shaped us, but it won't define. Together we heal, together we shine. Every tear, every scar tells the story of who we are. Not just survivors, but warriors too. With love as our armor, we see this through. We see you, we hear you, and we believe in you. Surviving together, hearts open wide, lifting each other through every tide. The past may have shaped us, but it won't define. Together we heal, together we shine. We see you, we hear you,